Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly discussion series that's hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center in collaboration with U of M Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN TV. This month, we are celebrating Black History Month, and we invited Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I'm going to share a little bit about when I met you, okay, and how you impressed me such a great deal, but I'm going to share your bio first. So born and raised in Detroit, Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence is an alumna of Pershing High School and earned her bachelor's degree in public administration from Central Michigan University. The Congresswoman had a notable career with the U.S. Postal Service for nearly 30 years. Then she was elected public service spanned over 30 years. She was the mayor of the City of Southfield for 14 years and was the first African American and the first woman who served in that position. Amazing. So I attended, this was years ago, I don't remember the year, but I just remember you talking at this interfaith event. It was for Women's International Month. I was so impressed by what you said because of your honesty, because of, I just felt the words, the messages that you were giving women was so powerful. So then I went up to you afterwards and asked for a picture. So I have it's just was very, very inspiring. And at that time, I had never heard you speak or I hadn't been to any event that you were in. So I'm so honored that years later, I get to interview you about your life and your work and to continue to learn from the words that you have to share. So tell us a little bit about, your childhood. Where were you? You were born in Detroit, but what was the transformative about where you and how you grew up?
So, my mother died when I was 3. I was raised by my grandparents and my dad, and grew up in the east side of Detroit. I take a lot of pride in that east side. And just really knew at the beginning of life how important every day is because I grew up knowing that death was real and that you had to make every day count. And I also found out based on my faith and my religion that God never takes anything from me without giving you something else. So he gave me amazing, loving grandparents and my dad who never called me Brenda. I was baby my whole life. I was given so many opportunities. I was raised by a woman who told me, said, Brenda, if you do 3 things, if you do these 3 things, there is absolutely nothing you can't do. There's no door that you can't walk through or a table you can sit at. And she said those 3 things were, Brenda, if you work hard, if you get your education and keep your faith in God, there's absolutely no one can stop you. So I believed her. And my life has just been amazing. And I am so grateful and humbled the experiences I've had. I can't hear you.
My next question, which I don't know if maybe you even ended up answering it right now, but what do you believe was the greatest influence on you that led you to choose public life and public service? So did it start off with the family dynamics and expanded, or tell us about that?
So I will tell you, absolutely, my grandmother set the stage. But let me tell you something that is so profound for me. Um, I was very active when I had my children in the school's PTA. And every time we wanted to do something to enhance the educational environment of our children, we had to go to this board. And this board would say yes or no. And I was so frustrated. I said, I'm so sick of this board. They just don't get it. And a friend of mine said, you should be on that board then. because I was in the PTA and I had gone up the ranks to be on the area PTA. And when I said that, I said, I'm going to be on that board. Then I found out, "Well, you have to run for office." I go, "Oh, no, I don't know anything about politics. That's just not something I know." And I was encouraged to run, and I won by 12 votes. And I remember that was just the most amazing thing, that I had worked hard and the people supported me. And I also had that strong sense of responsibility that I have to do a good job. I have to recognize that when I speak for all these people who supported me. So that was the beginning of my political career.
Well, we have a message here. Somebody saying how you made Southfield more beautiful during your time as a
Oh,
mayor.
thank you. Thank you.
I can easily imagine that. What you were saying about hard work and how you were not a politician, but there's something about you. You're so real and you're so heartfelt and you care so much about what you're talking about. And that's why when at the one event that I heard you speak, you were talking about how it felt like as a woman, as a
Mhm,
mother, as a wife, to do what you were doing. And at
mhm,
that time, my children, were a lot younger. They're still young, but not as young as that
mhm,
time. And I was kind of having that struggle. But something that really touched me is that you were encouraging women, whether they went out into the world and worked. You were giving them advice, but you were also giving advice for the woman that stays home, that it's
mhm,
okay to stay home, but you could also participate in the
mhm,
woman's life that is going out. So you were not judging anybody, but you were just basically telling women how they can support each other. And sometimes it's like either or well, you decided to go this way or you decided. There's no problem in deciding. It's how we unite and how we lift each other up. And when you were sharing that, it's something that stayed in my memory.
mhm,
Um, I also felt that when you were sharing the story, there was your stories and your experiences, that there was a lot of similarities to our Chaldean
mhm,
traditions on how our family dynamics are, whether
mhm.
it's as a wife or mother or just as somebody who is faith based. We lean a great deal to our faith and our church. And so I would like to know, I didn't know that you attended Pershing.
Mhm.
I have so many friends that
Oh,
did.
yes, there was a large Chaldean population there, and at that time, we just called them white people. We didn't call them, Chaldean or Arab, and, um, um, I call him Normie Kiminina. He and I, his wife and I, we went to Pershing together, and we were right there together and just, didn't we have this rich history now, so
Okay, so when you were introduced, so you just figured they were just white people or they had some Middle Eastern ancestry.
yes.
When did you start learning more about their history and how it differed and what they have gone through? Because I've also, as a journalist for over, since 2007, I was writing for the Chaldean News. So we have had our own struggles, and I've attended a lot of like protests or things that went on with the Chaldean community, where you were right there at the forefront, supporting the Chaldeans. But when did you start learning their story?
So the good fortune that I had being in the city of Southfield, that Southfield was one of the major locations when the first generation of Chaldeans came to Michigan, where they lived. So I was, my children went to school with Chaldean children. There was the Chaldean Catholic Church, the Cultural Center. There was the Chaldean business owners. And so I was interacting with the Chaldean community from day one in politics. And I've been doing this for 30 years. And there's some people, and I always talk about Martin Manna, and I talk about Normie, and I talk about some others, Sharkey Haddad, who were there at the very beginning, and I became really close friends, the Denhas. And, you know, if you talk to Martin, he'll say, Brenda is my sister from another mother. But the thing that I love so much about the Chaldean community was how embracing and understanding they were of being a minority. And, I share that. People call us names. There are so many different challenges we go through. But I have never been in a situation where I was judged because I'm Black, or, I was always included. And whenever they needed me, the community, I would show up and they were so grateful. And I was always invited to the cultural events and included, my palette for Middle Eastern food was designed by the Chaldean community. But the thing that is most impressive is a sense of family. I now know some third generation family members from when their grandparents came here as the first generation, became entrepreneurs and worked hard to build a economic base for the family and the generational wealth. And that's something I just so respect. And I was so proud that I was in the situation I'm in, that I could be a part of the Chaldean community, the family, and to continue to share that now.
So, you know, we do feel as well that we have so many similarities. I think because there has been in our past certain struggles and traumas that,
Yes.
um, with regard to the Black community, they have, because they came to this country they've been here for a longer time, so they
Mm.
have been able to learn how to tell their stories and use their voices and activism, and we're here fairly new in comparison. So you have helped quite a bit. I mean, I joined the uh, national Black, I forgot the whole name, journalism. It's an organization.
Yes.
It was very helpful. I haven't been after COVID. Everything went away, and I didn't get back. So my mind is not. I don't remember the title exactly, but they were so embracing and
Mm.
so helpful and really understood what myself as a Chaldean journalist, as a woman, was
Mhm.
trying to do and to go out there. And I also had done a documentary about a woman that felt that she did not have a fair trial. And I remember the late activist Ron Scott was so involved in that story. He was one of the major activists that was right up in the forefront. He was a strong part of trying to get her justice and a strong part of the documentary. And I learned so much from him. And he talked about some of the tensions between African Americans and Chaldeans and what it stems from. And I saw how he was trying to create peace between that. So can you share with us what was the root of that? What is some of the misconceptions? And again, ironically, when we do have so much similarities, and I know like my nephew is very involved with the hip hop industry in Detroit. They love him, he loves them, and he says and they have this great relationship, and he says, he says they're like us in so many ways, and that
Mhm.
it's not easy to break into their community, but once you do, you become part of the family.
So that acceptance is real because the Chaldean community, as you say, you're not just given a pass. You have to prove that you are you're accepting and non-judgmental of the community, and that you really care about them. One of the things that misconceptions. So everyone in your community know that a lot of your success initially was from being merchants, opening up what we call party stores, and to open up a business. And there were times when the community, that's all we had were the small stores from the Chaldean community. And there was sometimes, often, they felt they weren't treated with respect or whatever. And there were some beefs between some community members and younger members of the Chaldean community. But I think we have come a long way since then, because I actually was part of a town hall about how sometimes when there's violence, and unfortunately there's been death of um, store owners or merchants in the city of Detroit, and we said, wait a minute, we've got to work on this. This is not acceptable. And I think we've come a long way. But the thing of treating, because you are the only person in our community, just a discussion like, what do you carry in your store? Because when we talk about urban grocery store deserts, we talk about the lack of access to fresh fruit and vegetables. And but then, we answer that question because, for a long time, Detroit did not have a national brand store. It was Foodland. It was the Spartan stores and others, Mike's store on Livernois. It was those stores that brought fresh fruit and vegetables and an alternative to like sugary drinks and other things like that to our community. So it is, relationships and families are, as everyone knows, it's a daily work. Um, I often tell people I didn't get a chance to choose my family because there's some members of my family I would have chosen, but the reality is that they are yours. And I really, really am so proud of the years of growth and relationships that the Black and Chaldean community has developed.
And yes, you're absolutely right that we have evolved, because right now I don't think it's the same issues that it was maybe in the past. I mean, when I worked with Ron Scott, that was a while back. We started with that particular case with the documentary about 10 years ago.
Hmm.
Things, we have evolved quite a bit, and there has been so much support, I think, from both of us for each other, and more understanding, which is really amazing, and it's great. And I also think that there's something about, I still think that because the Black community has been here in this country longer, ancestrally, they have been here longer, that they see and have been helpful in different ways, because they can observe our struggles differently. They can be outside of our heads. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. Every community, I believe, has issues, including the Black community, the Chaldean community, Arab American community. Every community has issues which has been rooted in their ancestry somehow. And it's the
Yes.
same narrative that goes round and round, and we get stuck on that, right? We,
Yes.
we still, we are still dealing with that, where people, we have sometimes a very tribal ways that date back thousands of years, some of which are amazing and great, including like family dynamics, making sure that every single person is taken care of no matter what. That, to
Mhm.
me, that is the highest thing for me, and that belief in a higher power. At the same time, there's this tendency of, you belong to that area, you're Chaldean, you're Assyrian, you're Syriac, you're this, you're Arab, you're Muslim, you're Christian, and all these inner divisions that does not allow us to really unite and empower each other
Mhm.
at us as much as we can. From
Mhm.
your observation as an outsider from our community, what
Mhm.
advice can you give us to help us, understand, some of the things that you have observed that could empower us if we were to let go of some of these stories that keep repeating themselves in our lives?
Mhm. One of the things that I've been so proud and I have witnessed, and that is the inclusion of women in because your culture originally in the Middle East did not advocate for women working, for women being at the table, having an equal voice. And I have witnessed in my 30 years looking at this next generation of women being so strong, running businesses, being, some people say in America is a lot, but what you talked about earlier, we're educated, we are working, we are mothers, we are daughters, and we take all of that. And there was a time where you couldn't make that decision because it wasn't an option to you. I'm so proud to see how women have evolved and grew in the Chaldean community when it comes to investment in education, when it comes to investment of leadership, of who's going to take over the business. And there was a time women weren't even considered; it was only the son. But the thing that when you talk about the persecution that the Chaldean community has gone through based on your religion, being Christian, I'm very, very in tune to that, and I've always been very supportive of the churches and the faith-based organizations in Southfield. But the thing that is important is that we understand that the struggle and sometimes the hardships that culturally we have endured, we share a faith in God that we will be given, opportunities. The mass murders and the wars and everything that the Chaldean community survived and then came to the United States and was able to build a place in our economy and our communities has been very important. I want to share something with you. I was reading the Bible one day, and you know how you read the Bible multiple times because every time you read it, there's something new that's right. And I picked up the phone, I called Martin Mann. I said, Martin, you're in the Bible. He said, what? I said, Chaldeans, your tribe, it's named in the Bible. He said, Brenda, I know. I said, no, you don't know. That's a big deal.
Yes, keep calling Martin about these things, okay? I so appreciate, by the way, that Martin has people like yourselves in his life.
He needs me.
So yes, you're like this wise woman that so yeah, and that's the thing. I think when I used to go to I would go to our churches, and I would also go to American churches, and I love to just hear everybody. I like to get involved in everything. I used to always like to travel and just get involved and go into
Yes.
different faith houses and stuff like that. And then I remember that, when they're talking about the book of Genesis and they keep bringing up Mesopotamia and Chaldeans, and I'm thinking, and then I was like, I don't think people realize that they're talking about us because of
Yes.
because of the fact that Mesopotamia, the name was changed in 1921 to Iraq by the British when they occupied the region.
Yeah.
So there's a disconnect, that power of that name was
Yes.
disconnected, which anyways it was even a different name. But the whole thing, every time we change a name or geography of something, then people forget the association it has. And then I thought, they're not even aware. They think that we live in these historical books, and that we're extinct.
Yeah.
And there's an effort, Congresswoman. The sad part is there's until today an effort to erase our name, to
Yes.
erase our history. This is going on regularly. And so we feel so blessed that we have this place in Michigan. We consider this such sacred land for us to have been able to continue to tell our stories through the Chaldean Cultural Center, through the museum, and for right now, we have the largest population of Chaldeans in the world after what happened in 2014 with ISIS. We were second to Iraq, and now we're the main ones. So this land is incredible for us, and I believe that it's people like yourselves that have helped make that happen. Because I know that when what happened during the 2003 war, with the Christians, and then even 2014, you played an important role with Carl Levin and many others in order to help the Chaldeans and other minorities find safety. So you guys really played a major role to make this happen, to
Mhm,
allow to rescue these people
mhm.
from what they were going through and to bring them here to safety.
You're absolutely right. In Congress, I can tell you when I say my Chaldean community, because I always brag about my large Chaldean, they go like, "What's a Chaldean?" It's like we don't understand that. And like you when you talk about shared experiences, how it almost seems like a deliberate attempt to erase your identity. Um, it took a lot for me to realize that Africa is the Middle East, and the fact that I'm a descendant of African slaves, but yet and still there is this thing where you're Middle Eastern, you're not African, because there's so many um, connections from the Middle East, the African community. But when we talk about where we came from and not wanting that to be erased because it's who we are. I will share with you, talking about Black history. I was on the front line when Justice Ketanji Brown was, being nominated. And when she spoke, she stood there, she said, "I am the dream of the slave." Oh my goodness, there wasn't a dry eye in that group. Because when you think about the slaves being brought here and the journey and the abuse and all that was done to them, that they actually dreamed one day my children will be able to rise in this place that we call the Americas, that they will have a place, they won't be persecuted. And for the Chaldean community, the sacrifices you made to come to this country. And it wasn't just for them, your ancestors and your fathers and your grandfathers. It was because they understood the future. And they came and they worked hard to give the next generation that foundation. And so we have so much to be thankful for, when it comes to our ancestors and our elders. Um, but we also have a lot of work to do to make sure that our children and children's children continue to understand that life isn't easy. Life isn't the freedoms we have. I often say this: freedom is not free. That we stay engaged and stay connected. And one other thing, I remember working with that first generation of Chaldeans, begging them to become involved politically, to encourage them to get involved, because for them, government was not a good thing. And to see now the progression of political involvement and election of Chaldeans to offices in America. So we have a lot to be thankful and proud of.
And a lot to learn. And you're right, we are not comfortable with government because we come from an oppressive regime and we were not
Yes.
allowed to express ourselves. So there's that fear, there's fear upon fear. But again, it's coming to this country and having people such as yourself embrace and understand and help us through that. That's made a huge difference. Now, I want to say one last thing is that so you recently retired.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can't imagine that you retired, meaning, I mean, what does that look like for you? Because I'm sure that you're still involved in so many ways. I'm sure you're not like off the hook. What
My my phone has been ringing off the hook from almost every nonprofit to ask me to be involved. I'm not lost on the fact that my life is one that is very unique. To be the little Black girl from the east side of Detroit, to have no political linkage to build on, to be able to walk the halls of Congress. I often say I'm a Black woman in America who's walking the halls of Congress, which were built by slaves. And so I don't feel it's responsible for me to not give back and to get involved. And so I am going to get involved in some way of bringing people together. When I was in Congress, I started the first Black Jewish caucus that would bring Black and Jewish members of Congress together as we look at racism, anti Semitic activity. Um, and so I'm going to continue that. I fight for women every day. So I'm looking at a way that I could be a person that bring women together to fight for equality for women. We've come a long way, baby, but we have a long way to go, honey. So I'm going to do that as well, and hopefully be in the college classrooms to just be a role model. Because I will tell you, one of the most profound moments when I was elected mayor of Southfield, I went to elementary school to talk to some kids, right? And this little Black girl's looking at me, and she had that look that only children have when they're trying to figure something out. And she said, "You're the mayor, right?" I said, "Yeah, I'm the mayor." She said, she stopped, she looked at me, she said, "Well, I can be mayor too." I said, "Yes, you can." And that's the power of everything that you do, everything that I do, is being true to who we are, using the talents and skills. And even if you don't have a formal interaction with children, with little girls, with, for me, with African Americans, I am inspiring someone to just keep pushing through. You can do it. You know, when I broke the glass ceiling, being the first woman, first African American mayor, I broke a ceiling. And so that encourages others.
Thank you. That is so beautiful. I when I did presentations at schools about Chaldeans, I had this one kid come up to me and say, "My parents are from there," and then he kept emphasizing, and I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And he was just in disbelief. And then I had this other kid, the teacher came up to me after and said, "This was a great presentation." And the way we know that is that kid that was sitting in the front, and I knew exactly who he was talking about. He goes, he can't sit for more than a couple of minutes without us telling him, "Sit down, stop talking." And he said he was just paying attention for that whole hour.
Oh,
And
great.
that brought tears to my eyes because I did not grow up seeing myself represented in anything.
Exactly.
There was no stories, there was no history. I was an adult when I started realizing, okay, what is it? What is Chaldean exactly? And looking into that. But so before I just want to, we have only a few minutes left, and I just want to see if you have any last words. But I want to also say how important, you're right, everything that you do, even whatever your title may be. But that time that I first listened to you speak, and when you were sharing that, I'm going to emphasize again. I think listening to you and seeing who you were, like at that time, I think you were just, yeah, you were the mayor. That's
Hmm.
how long it was. But when I heard you speak and when I felt what you were feeling and how you were expressing it, I actually, it was a time in my life that I was going through that phase of trying to hold on to what I'm trying to do career wise and with my kids. And I suddenly felt it was okay because there was somebody else experiencing that, yet here she
Yes.
is. It meant so much. It didn't mean that there was a magic, somebody just appeared and started helping me or something changed in my life, but it's that connection. And sometimes people don't realize how important just to hear that and to know that somebody else is going through that, and that's okay because she persisted, she continued. So any last words, Congresswoman?
I just want to say, this is Black History Month, and thank you so much for having me here. I spoke at the Chaldean Chamber, and I told them, I said, I have another family. A lot of the success and support I had, if it was not for the Chaldean community believing in me and supporting me, I wouldn't have made it. So I want to say thank you for all of that. But most of all, just to remind everyone that, and I'll put it to you this way: when I was first elected mayor, a reporter came up to me and said, "So do you think you got elected just because you're Black?" And Da, da, da. I said, I worked hard to touch the people in this community. I worked hard to ask for their vote. And I said, if you want to talk about my political platform, I said, I'm open to have that conversation with you. I said, but God created me a woman. God created this beautiful brown skin that I have. So if you want to take up my ethnicity or the sex that I am, you take that up with God. I want to talk to you about my policy. So I'm a firm believer that God, in his ultimate wisdom, decided that we would have different colors, we would have different cultural experiences. And he also, I feel, believe firmly, and it's our job, each of us, to come together and love each other. And so, with that, I want to tell everyone our history is shared in this great country. And I'm so proud to be an African American in the United States of America. And I'll close with this. I fought for 30 years as an elected official, and I will continue to fight because I believe in one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being who you are and for your wonderful service. You've helped so many people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and have a wonderful day.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye bye.